Now, Hillary Clinton has a new book coming out, and in it she tries to explain what happened in 2016. Oh, this ought to be really, really good. Now, the book is not out yet. It comes out in September 12th, so about another week or so. But while it's not out, there have been excerpts that have been leaked. And boy, is she pissed. I mean, look, I would be very, very angry as well if the person I ran against called me crooked and started chants of lock him up, and talked about, you know, grabbing pussies, and then still ended up winning the election. I'd be a little steamed myself, right? So, of course, she's probably super mad at Donald Trump, right? Not so much. She's not mad at Trump, actually. She's mad at Bernie Sanders. But wait a minute, she beat Bernie Sanders in the primary and then went on to go against Donald Trump, where Bernie Sanders campaigned for her on her behalf. Well, here's what I'm going to do. We're going to decide to, we're going to plumb the depths of her rage and look at why she is decided to be so mad at Bernie Sanders, who, again, helped her campaign after the primary was over, backed her, told people to vote for her, and even went and did some campaign rallies for her in the general election. Now, according to Clinton, one of the main things is that Sanders apparently had impugned her character during the primary. Well, what do you expect? That's a primary. You kind of have to go after each other, and look, I don't even agree that he impugned her character, right? But she believes that, and she says that that helped Donald Trump win the election against her. Now, here's a quote from this book that was leaked by a pro-Clinton Twitter account. She said, "Because we agreed on so much, Bernie couldn't make an argument against me in this area on policy. So he had to resort to innuendo and impugning my character." Oh, that's hilarious. Again, I'm going to break down why that actually is not true. No, they were not close on when it comes to policy. Yes, they agreed generally on some things, but as far as specific policy is concerned, they're actually kind of far apart. On the left, there's a rift between the centrist policy and the progressive policy, which obviously was much more progressive. Now, she wrote that when I finally challenged Bernie during a debate to name a single time I changed a position or a vote because of a financial contribution, he couldn't come up with anything. That's funny because there was a lot there, but I remember that moment where, look, Bernie Sanders treated Hillary Clinton with kids' gloves. Ain't nothing compared to what Donald Trump unleashed upon her, because, like I said, Bernie Sanders is too nice. He's too nice, right? Now, but she says, no, he wasn't too nice. He was so vile, so mean. In fact, his attacks caused lasting damage to my campaign, making it so much harder to unify progressives. No, you know what made it hard to unify progressives is the fact that the DNC cheated Bernie Sanders out of possibly winning the primary by all stacking behind you, who was actually a weaker opponent to Donald Trump. Look, Bernie Sanders, and I know some people say, oh, the polls are wrong. And in the case of Hillary Clinton, perhaps they were in some areas, right? Where she was slated to win Michigan. Obviously, she didn't. Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, all that stuff. But see, those were close polls. It turns out that in the polling, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump were pretty much neck and neck, while the whole contest, Bernie Sanders was beating Trump by double digits. Now, would that have went down during the election as the Republican attack machine would have made attacks against Bernie Sanders? Probably. He would have lost a few points, but he still would have been solidly ahead of Donald Trump. And again, Bernie Sanders is the most popular politician in America, and even if he suffered a couple of points of damage during the election, during a general election, he still would have done far better than Hillary Clinton. And that's not me saying that. That's like the data. That's extrapolating from the data, looking at what could have happened. So, and just based on his favorabilities, his popularity, the popularity of his policies, which, again, right now are super popular. But I'll get into that stuff later. Now, she says, she said that, again, these attacks from Bernie Sanders during a primary where you're actually supposed to attack your opponent in order to win. What, do you want him to not attack you? Then what the hell is a primary for? But again, a lot of these corporate Democrats, they hate primaries because they don't want to be challenged, especially from the left, because they know they don't do as well. Now, she says that it made it harder to unify progressives, as I just mentioned, and paved the way for Trump's crooked Hillary campaign. Well, okay, so going back to that debate, right? I mentioned that there were times where, yes, she did change a position or a vote because of a financial contribution. And actually, this was pointed out by Elizabeth Warren during the campaign. In 2004, Warren, still a professor at Harvard, had written an op-ed about a piece of bankruptcy legislation supported by credit card companies that would have made it more difficult for families to go into bankruptcy. Warren wrote that the legislation would hurt women who were trying to compete with credit card companies to get child support from their ex-husbands. Clinton, when the First Lady saw the op-ed, invited Warren to meet with her after a speech in Boston. Now, Warren said about Clinton, I got to tell you, I've never had a smarter student. And she said, Professor Warren, we've got to stop that awful bill. Warren later said that she heard that there were skid marks in the hallways when Clinton returned to the White House to convince the administration to reverse course in the bill. And of course, Bill Clinton vetoed that bill. Now, look, if that were the end of the story, then I would give a lot of credit to Hillary Clinton. But later on, when Hillary Clinton was elected to the Senate, she voted in favor of that same bill. Now, Warren, of course, criticized that by saying to Senator Clinton, the pressures are very different. She's taken money from the groups, and more to the point, she worries about them as a constituency. Now, overall, the Clintons have taken over $3 billion. That's in their pocket from different groups, from things like speaking fees and related to, the presidency. So her family has taken a lot of money from outside groups. They've profited very handsomely. And of course, that means that whenever they're in power, they happen to be on the side of those groups when it comes to their policy priorities. Now, that would be one example, right? Now, what about policy? As I mentioned, do they agree on policy? Somewhat, but not really. Bernie Sanders, for example, wanted to use the government to break up too-big-to-fail banks. Hillary Clinton did not. She was also against a 21st century Glass-Steagall, which would basically put a wall between investment banks and commercial banks. Now, right now, without that wall, commercial or investment banks can use your depositor funds to go and gamble on Wall Street. Now, is that good? Do you want your money to go into a Wall Street casino? No, you put your money in the bank to keep it safe. If those banks make a bad bet, they lose your money. And then they end up getting taxpayer-funded bailouts like they did back in 2008. Now, again, Hillary Clinton, she's against putting that wall in. Bernie Sanders, massively in favor of it. So that's different on banking policy. And maybe another example of course, her going against policy because of who funds her. She got a lot of campaign contributions from Wall Street and actually also did a lot of Wall Street or speeches for Goldman Sachs that we still don't know what's in it, what she had said to them. But anyway, on policy grounds, there's more. Medicare for all, for example, Bernie Sanders wanted that. Hillary Clinton said that will never, ever happen. Sanders wanted free college for everybody. Hillary Clinton, during the primary, she said that she wanted people to work for their education. Of course, not only that, but Clinton at first was in favor of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Bernie Sanders, definitely against that. Now, of course, during the general, she moved a tiny bit to the left on some of those issues. Worked with Bernie Sanders to do a little bit more of a progressive college platform, but it was too little, too late. There's more. On policy, she writes, Jake Sullivan, my top policy advisor, told me it reminded him, this was Bernie Sanders, her talking to Bernie Sanders and his policies, from the 1998 movie, There's Something About Mary, a deranged hitchhiker says he's come up with a brilliant plan. Instead of the famous 8-minute abs exercise, he's going to market 7-minute abs. It's just the same, but quicker. Then the driver, played by Ben Stiller, says, why not 6-minute abs? That's what it's like in policy debates with Bernie. We would promise a bold infrastructure investment plan or an ambitious new apprenticeship program for young people. And then Bernie would announce basically the same thing, but bigger. On issue after issue, it was like he kept proposing 4-minute abs or no-minute abs, magic abs. No, that's not what happened. Bernie Sanders has been for these progressive policies for a lot longer than you have been for these other policies. You were a Goldwater girl while he was fighting for this kind of stuff and getting arrested during civil rights era. I'm just saying. Yes, it's good that you evolved to a more progressive position, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with politicians becoming more progressive as long as they actually mean it. Hillary Clinton, we don't know if she actually meant it. This characterization, completely off and absolutely ridiculous. Now, she continues writing, somebody sent me a Facebook post that summed up the dynamic in which we were caught. Bernie, I think America should get a pony. How will you pay for the pony? Where will the pony come from? How will you get Congress to agree with the pony? Again, Bernie Sanders had answers for all of these different questions. All of his policies were already paid for. And you could go and look that up. That was in the public record. Now, she continues with this sort of mock or something, trying to mock Bernie Sanders, I guess, by saying, Bernie, Hillary doesn't think America deserves a pony. Hillary, actually, I love ponies. Bernie supporters, she changed her position on ponies. Which Hillary? Which Hillary? It's with which, W-I-T-C-H. Wow. So she talked about ponies, right? First of all, look at the framing on that. Super right wing. That, of course, gives ammunition to the right wing. That's what the right wing says. Oh, the Democrats, all they want to do is just give out handouts and freebies to everybody and hand jobs, too, because those are awesome. No, that's not what we're doing. We're actually trying to do things like Medicare for all. You think Medicare for all is a pony? Medicare for all is, look, is a policy position that every other or almost every other industrialized wealthy nation already has. It's been tried and it works. That's what Bernie Sanders is trying to move us towards. Hillary Clinton didn't want that. She thinks that's a fucking pony. She thinks not having the banks ripping us off, that's a pony. She thinks an actual infrastructure plan is a pony, right? She thinks that a living wage is a pony. You've got to be kidding me. Look, this entire book, from what I can see, and I'm sure the rest of it is not going to be any different, reeks of bitterness and the same kind of condescension that has essentially doomed her campaign from the beginning. And this is her again saying, nothing is my fault. It's not my fault. I didn't lose. Everybody loves the establishment, but it was just that goddamn Bernie Sanders that made me lose to Trump. Well, if everybody loves the establishment, then how come you lost to Trump? Can't come up with the answer. No, it's Russia. It was Bernie Bros. It's sexism. It's all this stuff. For fuck's sake, man. In fact, she goes into that. The Bernie bro thing. She says, some of his supporters, the so-called Bernie bros, took to harassing my supporters online. Oh my God, someone was mean on the internet. Come on, dude. Really? Snowflake. Anyway, she said, it got ugly and a little more than sexist. Now, look, I'm not going to deny that there wasn't sexism, that there isn't sexism. Of course there's sexism. Of course, right? I'm not a Republican. I'm not going to admit that that doesn't exist, right? Oh, no sexism. What are you talking about? There's no sexism. There's no racism. There's no isms. In fact, white people, we're the victims. No, I'm not going to say that because that's ridiculous and it's completely untrue. Yes, there's sexism. Yes, that did play a little bit of a role in the campaign. Of course, some people online who were attacking her, yes, did so with sexist attacks, and yes, were sexist. That doesn't mean that it destroyed her campaign. Okay. And on to the point of Bernie Sanders and people who supported Bernie Sanders, people who are actual progressives, you think those people who are to the left of you are sexist? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. No, either they're too progressive or they're sexist, because you can't have both, right? You can't say that those people that are, oh, they're so far to the left. got with all their free stuff and taking care of everybody with Medicare for all and allowing them to go to school for free. And they're also so sexist. No, that does not compute. Those two things are not equal. There's no equivocation going on here. But she tries to. Either they're sexist and racist or they're too liberal. You can't do both, okay? But look, this is an established pattern from Hillary Clinton's team. She did this in 2008 with President Obama. She attacked people who thought she was who thought she was too right-wing, right? Too establishment and too unlikable. She attacked them as sexist bros, right? And they ended up having their hacks and mainstream media call them the Obama boys. So this is the same thing all over again, that Bernie bro smear. And then not only that, but it actually gets even more ridiculous. Because this is the stuff we already knew, we already talked about. But this one's new. She actually accused Sanders of not wanting to win the Democratic primary. Or not even wanting Democrats to win. This is the most insane part. She writes, he isn't a Democrat. That's not a smear. That's what he says. But he didn't get into the race to make sure a Democrat won the White House. He got in to disrupt the Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders, see, look at that. Not a Democrat. All he did was just come up, try to fuck up the Democrats. Really? That's what you believe? That he didn't want to win? You think a guy that defends Democrats, caucuses with the Democrats, votes with them, and is popular among them? Look, he has an 80% approval rating with Democratic voters. You think that guy came in to try to destroy the Democratic Party? That is fucking ridiculous. Look, the policies that he supports are supported by, guess what? A majority of Democrats and a majority of the country. Medicare, for example, 77%. Medicare for all, polling at 60%. Even high among Republicans. And yet you think he was there just to destroy and disrupt the Democratic Party. That is fucking ridiculous. You know what he did? He ran to save the Democratic Party. And that is the very thing he's still doing. And I know that frustrates probably a lot of you, a lot of progressives who think that he should stop wasting his time on the Democratic Party. Now, look, I disagree with them on that part. But look, if you're out there building a third party and you're out there creating your own movement, wonderful. I applaud your efforts to create a viable third-party option. Because look, at the end of the day, we know that the two-party system is not serving the people. And eventually, we are going to have to move to a better system. But right now, I think the framework and the goal of the Justice Democrats, I believe that that's the best way. But again, there's no guarantee that that will work. It is a risk. It is a gamble. Nonetheless, Bernie Sanders is somebody who's still working tirelessly to promote progressive ideals. Now, this is somebody that's traveled nonstop to places like West Virginia to push for these policies. And look, he's also inspired hundreds of politicians to run on those ideas. Now, if you're against Bernie Sanders or you're against those policies, look, you shouldn't be, okay? Again, they're super popular. And if you're coming at it from a centrist position, you got to look at how your positions poll with the American public versus the positions of Bernie Sanders and progressives. You're going to find that they're far more popular because people actually want them. And if you actually are interested in winning an election, then you would support those policies. But look, he's not disrupting the party, right? Now, maybe he's disrupting your party, your cocktail party, that is. The one that you have with all their rich friends and donors. But seriously, he's trying to save the Democratic Party. And the Democratic Party, again, doesn't seem very interested in doing so because follow the money, right? Now that leads me to my last excerpt here that I have. And she writes, quote, "I'm proud to be a Democrat, and I wish Bernie were too." Look, she has not learned anything. And to be honest, I believe Hillary Clinton is far more disruptive to the Democratic Party than Bernie Sanders. Again, Sanders is the most popular politician in America. He's got a 60% approval rating. Trump is at 41%. He's deeply unpopular. He's underwater. He has not changed very much. Actually, he has changed. He has went down in popularity. And yet here is Hillary Clinton at 39%. She is sitting underwater right next to Trump. If you want to blame anyone for the loss of Hillary Clinton, you should probably blame Hillary Clinton. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.